welcome back to another video. Today, as you can tell, we're talking about the worst things about this terrible camera, the A7S III. Okay, obviously I'm kidding. If you've watched any of my recent videos, you know I love this camera. It's phenomenal, it's worth the hype, it's everything they said it was gonna be, but after using it the last few months, there's a few things, a few downfalls, a few, dare I say it, flaws with this camera. And I would just feel wrong not telling y'all what these are. If you're thinking about buying this camera, if you've already bought it and you're about to start using it, just know these are the things that you might run into that really might get on your nerves. So we have four. Let's talk about number one, and you probably already know what it is. It's the 12 megapixel sensor. And yes, I know, I get it. I get why it has to have 12 megapixels. I get it lets in more light, yada, yada, yada. All in all, to me, it's kind of a flaw. In the end, I would just prefer the 24 megapixels from the A7 III compared to only 12. I actually made a video kind of about this a few weeks ago. Jacob and I took the 12 megapixel photos from this camera and compared them to the 36 megapixel photos from his camera. And you're gonna have to click the video to find out what we said, what our results were. But regardless of that, in the end, 24 megapixels would just be better than 12. Okay, we're moving on. That's a whole can of worms we're not getting into. While that one, I can get over it. I bought this camera for videos, not for photos. Number two though, it just makes me sad. And number two is that you can't use the APS-C crop mode when you're shooting in 4K. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, full frame Sony cameras have the ability to punch in and shoot in an APS-C crop mode. I was gonna do finger quotes, but that is actually what it is. It's not like a finger quote situation. Anyway, the Sony full frame cameras have the ability to crop in on the sensor, and it's supposed to be used for when you're using a crop sensor lens, but me and a lot of other people just use it to get more reach out of our full frame lenses, and in my opinion, there's no noticeable loss of quality. Now, on the A7 III, you can do this in 4K because you have a 6K sensor, so you can push in and still have enough pixels for it to be 4K. On the A7S III, it only has a 4K sensor. So if you're already shooting in 4K, you can't crop in on the sensor because then you won't have enough pixels for it to be 4K anymore. It's very sad because I got used to shooting like this for a year, and it was honestly awesome because the press of a button had my 28 to 75 being a 45 to 120, not losing any quality, not that I could tell. I mean, I'm over it, it's fine, I'm over it. Let's move on to number three. And number three is the battery life. So I don't have any scientific tech specs for you. I'm just telling you, the battery does not last as long on the A7S III as it does on the A7 III. I used to be able to shoot with the A7 III, I mean like 6 or 7 hours at a wedding. No, I'm not shooting continuous, but I'm constantly shooting 120, filming the ceremony, letting that run for 20 minutes. I mean, this battery, no way, absolutely not. Which of course, it's easily remedied by buying more batteries, but these batteries are $70. And also there's just something about having a really long lasting battery. There's something about knowing pretty much whenever you grab it, whether you've charged it lately or not, you're gonna have a decent amount of battery power. Okay, and number four is my computer and Premiere Pro hate these files. Like, hate them. Okay, that's a little bit dramatic. Now, I shoot everything in 4K, whatever frame rate I'm doing, 4K 24, 4K 60, 4K 120. So I do get like the files are big. And there's three types of encoding for 4K on this camera. You got the H.265, which is super compressed, and my computer would probably explode if it had to uncompress that and read it, so I don't use that. You got the middle ground, which is, I don't know, XAVC-S. It's like a decently small size, but decently uncompressed. And then you have the all intra, which is super uncompressed, super large files, and your computer would probably love it. But then you get to that weird place where like, oh, the file is huge. So does your computer love this thing because it's really uncompressed, or does it hate it because it's freaking massive? And do you have the storage or the $400 CF Express card that you need to shoot that? Because I don't. I opted not to get that, probably should have. But just like with the battery thing, there is a solution. And honestly, in the end, this is probably a really good thing that I've had to develop. Now, I will go shoot, take it straight to the camera, import the footage, and immediately make proxies. Like, I'll do proxies for pretty much everything now. And it's really good because I feel like my workflow is so much faster once I have the proxies, like faster than it ever was with any other footage not from this camera. Now that I'm just used to sitting down, click make proxies, make these super small ProRes files, my editing is pretty decently smooth now. But as you may be able to tell, none of these flaws are like detrimental flaws. They're not flaws that I'm gonna be like, oh, don't buy this camera because your computer may have trouble reading the files, or you'll have to pick up an extra battery. honestly, the pros just demolish the cons in this situation. This camera it's everything everyone's saying it is. So if you are considering getting it, I would say go for it. All right, y'all, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, if it helped you out in any way, please hit like down below. Helps me out, helps me grow the channel. We passed 1,000 subs. Again, thank y'all so much for that. Freaking best. Let's keep going. We got weekly videos here on the channel. Hit subscribe down below if you want to see that. I'm super excited. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.